Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple pump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report or find me on Twitter at Rick Bucher. No K on the Rick. And you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. And I am joined by, of course, this being Thursday, the Ryan Hollins. That's how you can find him on Twitter. You can find him on ESPN. You can find him on NBA Radio. And you can find him here every week, Thursdays and Fridays. All right, Ryan, been looking forward to getting to this. And we do have to get to the Bulls situation. We're recording this after the Raptors and their beatdown on the Warriors at Oracle Arena. We certainly will get to that because you and I discussed it beforehand. But I just, with all the events around the association tonight, I wanted to get your take, as particularly with the Raptors doing what they did to the Warriors, just to get your take on the biggest upset tonight. And we got the Pacers beating the Bucks 113-97. We have the Nets beating the 76ers 127-124 in Philadelphia. We have, this isn't an upset. Well, maybe it is because the Celtics did beat the Wizards, but it took overtime to do it, and a 40-foot three-point bomb by Kyrie Irving. We've got the Blazers losing to the Grizzlies. We have the Thunder losing to the Pelicans, and I believe that's pretty much all that qualifies here. Oh, we got the Kings beating the Timberwolves. Among those, Ryan, which of those jumps out at you and says, ooh, did not see that one coming?
Obviously, Oklahoma City losing to New Orleans. I didn't necessarily see that. The Nets beating Philly, I wouldn't have called that. We'd have lost there. But I think the Bucks getting blasted by the Pacers, even though Oladipo got back, I don't think I would have seen a 113-97 game out of them because Milwaukee's been kind of like, along with the Raptors, the feel-good story of the year as far as a team. Giannis has a lot of energy behind them. They're deep. They're athletic. There's a lot to them. And the Pacers are just kind of like that, like a gritty, hard-nosed, hard-working team. Yeah,
they're not flashy, and I'm with you. When I saw that score, and I saw it early on, I saw that the Pacers got out in front early, and they never gave it up. And I'm thinking, how are they controlling the tempo on this? Because if this is a fast-paced game, they've got no chance against the Bucks. And you would just expect that they've got a couple of matchups, the Bucks do, beginning with Giannis, that would create all kinds of problems for the Pacers. And this is, once again, this is where when everybody talks about Giannis being great and the Bucks being great, these are the kind of losses that are such a head scratcher that I'm not ready to anoint them anything other than very talented.
Yeah, well, Giannis isn't a closer. He's an exciting player. He's a freak. He's lived up to his name and so much more with a lot of the finishes that he has. But he's not a guy that when things get tough, he can just take over and kind of create plays either for himself or other players. And that's why you're going to experience some games because those guys it's Bledsoe and it's Middleton. He's still not there yet.
You just hit it because I look at their roster and you just hit it. This is why when you look at their team and you look at what they're capable of doing, they look so great. And yet the Achilles heel is their best player is not a closer. He's not going to close the game for you. And so then you start going down the roster searching for that guy that is your Kyrie Irving. Chris Middleton, he's good. He's not that. Eric Bledsoe, he's not that. Malcolm Brogdon, he's not that. I mean, you can keep going. He ain't on this roster. That's what they don't have. And that is going to show up, as you know, if not sooner, later come playoff time. you can find a way to make Giannis play in a crowd, and then they're going to have to rely on somebody else to be that guy. And I'm not convinced that they have that guy on the roster. Ryan Hollins, you unlocked the box. Well done.
No, man. Everybody jumps on me when I don't anoint Giannis. I don't put him on that thing. And it's like, bro, he's not an MVP candidate. Like, and you're going to play tough teams, the Indianas, the Pistons, the Clippers. You're going to play those hard-nosed teams that are always they're going to make their rotations. They're going to make you finish over them. They're going to be in the right places all night long. And you're going to have a long night, Giannis, until you get a jumper or you start playing basketball or more of a two-man game. Because right now, he lost almost the point forward, and he's just playing like a slashing forward, and that's not a guy that closes out games for you.
All right, so let's get to the big game of the night, or the game that you and I discussed earlier. The Raptors beating the Warriors 113-93. As people know, we do the podcast on Friday on behalf of sportsbetcollective.com. We pick all of the games against the spread and the over-under. And I do it more than just on Fridays. I write pieces for them. So I didn't say it to you directly, but you probably guessed. I was picking your brain a little bit because I took the Raptors and the 7 points, and I went the under. And I texted you to find out where you would go. You agreed with me on the Raptors, but you went over because you thought that the Warriors were going to push the pace. And I dare say they tried, but they simply weren't up to the task. And the Raptors defensively, here's the thing for me. While I ended up looking smart and your overplay didn't pan out, where the Warriors really got beat in this game is defensively they weren't there. Obviously, they only scored 93, but it was as much their transition D didn't do anything to slow Toronto down.
Well, if you look at the Raptors, I'm going to even flip that on you. I'm going to say it's the Raptors defense because they're confident in their defense. They're free on offense. And if they shoot a shot a little too quick, it's not that big a deal because they get it back. Or, the biggest thing, like all the great defensive teams I've been on, you kind of accept you're going to be caught in a bad way. And the times you're caught in a bad way, that's when your star or your athlete kind of bails you out, or a guy who can kind of play both. And if you got a team full of them like we had in Boston, you were great. You had guys that would stick their nose in there and get a steal or a loose rebound or contest a big at the rim. And you turn around and for Toronto, any of their guys could contest the center at a rim or guard a point guard on the wing. They don't have too many weaknesses. Where a lot of teams, you pick your poison and then they go at them. For instance, you saw a game, Danny Green was posting up. They had to trap Danny Green on the box because he was cooking Steph Curry. So now I've got a luxury. Ideally, I don't necessarily run my offense through Danny Green, but we're getting stops on the other end. So now he's free.
The other part is, and whether it's on the defensive end or the offensive end, the fact of the matter is that the Raptors can put 5 guys out there who are both accomplished defenders. They can defend their position. You can switch. And offensively, they're a threat. You look across the board on their starting 5, 20, 13, 23, 10, 15. And then they got just about everybody coming off the bench got buckets. Now, some of that is because there was a lot of garbage time in this game. But look at the Warriors starting 5. Draymond Green, 2 points. Kevin Durant, 30. Kevon Looney, 4 points. Steph Curry, 10 points. Klay Thompson, 14 points. Now, that backcourt, those numbers obviously will change. But the numbers on Draymond Green and Kevon Looney, those aren't going to change significantly. And that's where, when you don't have to pay as much attention to one and maybe even 2 guys, I don't care how good KD and Steph and Klay are, when you're playing 3 against 5 or 3 against 4, you're going to have issues trying to get things done. And that's why I picked Boston to win it this year. And honestly, I'm not quite there yet because we got a long season still in front of us. But I fully expect, whether it's Toronto or Boston, I expect the next champion to come out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. I understand it.
You're not there yet, though.
Yeah, yeah. And I posted, we kind of like had a flurry of it, but I had to, you got to put your chest out when something you say comes around. But, kind of my dark horse, my crazy prediction, this is before Kawhi even stepped foot on the floor, was that Toronto would be NBA champions if he's half of what he is, just because the matchups. And golly, like, it's looking even more true than the way that I said it. Just the fact that, like, OG and Pascal are really, really good defenders. They just weren't ready, and they got some LeBron-type experience. And now you add in Kawhi, you add in, like, big brother OG and big brother Pascal, and then they're looking how to do it. And then you look over, and Serge Ibaka's there. So, like, bro, you got 4 guys that just, like, really switch and do everything. Like, people forgot how good Serge is. I mean, he's been injured. He's disappointed you right when you want to get excited about him. Rick, I know you're not really high on him, but when you don't need him and he's the 4th or 5th guy in your lineup, you're like, dang, he's really fast. He jumps really high, and he's athletic, and he shoots a 3. Right. So, like, he fits.
No. I love him in this role because I don't have to count on it. Where I got off of Serge was when he was with OKC, and they were in some battles, and there were series where he had to be the best big man in the series. He had to win them a game or two as the best big man in those games, and he never did. And I thought he was capable of that. He was young, it was early. I gave him the opportunity to prove that he could be that guy. He's not that guy. And even when he first got to Toronto, it was, okay, can he win you a game in a series? Can he win you a big game? And every time the matchup said, this is his to win, he didn't win it. Now, he can have big games, and you can take advantage of it. But in those big spots, like Pascal Siakam and his handle and how easily he finished at the rim against bigs, and he can defend bigs, I'm like, that dude's scary. And look, he still has to prove it on the biggest stage, but there's something about him, I feel like the door is open for him to possibly be one of those guys, one of those bigs who can win you a playoff game. Let
me give you a little nugget. Not only did he work out with Rico Hines all summer, who's pretty much the gatekeeper to NBA basketball, college basketball right now, he was in private workouts with Kevin Durant all summer long playing. Not just the let's get up some shots and look cool and take some videos. Like we're playing ones.
Wow.
Like, check up. We're playing ones, not the closed gym. The idea that people hate. Like, we're playing one straight up.
See, this is the thing.
Like, yeah. With KD all summer, Rick.
Here's the thing with that. If I'm KD, why do I want to develop the confidence of a guy? Now, understand he's in the Eastern Conference. You're KD. He's going to make you better. But I don't know that I want to develop the confidence of a dude like that I potentially have to go through, right? I mean, iron sharpens iron. This is the way I look at it.
It's not like he plays for the Lakers or something.
Siakam gets more out of that workout than KD will.
Yeah, but KD's a real dude.
Okay.
KD's a real dude,
saying
Rick?
I'm not a real dude by the fact that I'm considering this mindset of...
No, because KD's not thinking like that. And, Rick, that's exactly what you would hate. Like, KD's a real dude. Like, check up. Like, let's hoop.
Yeah.
Like, that's why he is who he's not like, oh... I might have to play against him one day. I don't want to make him improve or see my moves. Like, KD's a real dude. Like Rick, don't give me that crap, Rick. Do not talk. Don't bring that softness over here, yo. Do not bring. Oh no, I might have to see. Like, nah, check up and play ball, playground style. Like, get better.
Well, see, good. I felt like I was taking a page out of Kobe's book because back in the day, Kobe and I had this conversation. And there was a time where he wouldn't work out with anybody and he didn't play pickup. And it was kind of along the same lines. He didn't want people to see what he was putting in his bag.
Yeah, but Kobe's a psycho.
Okay, but he's not soft. He's not soft.
No, but he's a psycho. So let's not compare him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Kobe's a straight up psycho. Nobody's in there at 4 a.m., bro.
Yeah.
With ankle weights on.
Yeah.
After they ran, it had a 3-mile bike ride. Like, Kobe's a psycho. So
we'll just put him in a separate category. We'll just put Kobe in anything that he said or does.
Social life
over there.
Gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. So the Raptors did all this beatdown that was over by halftime. I mean, they got out in front by midway through the second quarter, and they never looked back. The Warriors never threatened in this game, and they did it without Kawhi Leonard, who was sitting out a second straight game with a sore left hip. So everybody afterward says it's just one game and it's regular season, and there's a lot of justification in saying that. But what can we infer or take away from the fact that the Raptors did what they did without Kawhi Leonard in Oracle Arena?
Well, let me drop a nugget for you, and this is kind of in from the Toronto organization. They're 7-1 without Kawhi. When Kawhi's getting the basketball, he's turning into a guy you just mentioned, Kobe Bryant, and not in a good way. He's getting the ball, and he's playing a lot of one-on-one, and he's holding the basketball, and he's really damn effective. It's almost like Jimmy Butler-esque, and he's really effective doing it, and he defends. The deal is good, but the ball doesn't move.
Yeah.
But the guy who they're enjoying playing with, who's doing all the little things, it's Pascal.
Yep.
Because he's fast as heck. He gets up and down the floor. He moves the basketball. The ball pops. When you watch it, the ball pops. So Kawhi hurts guys like Lowry. He hurts other players like that, and that's why Lowry struggles, and they're still winning, but it ain't quite the same as equal opportunity offense, that thing moving around the horn. So interesting dynamic, and that you get Kawhi, you're better with them. You know, you're deeper, but are you better? And does that help you in the long run because you got a guy who can go create his own shot? Or does it hurt you because the ball's not moving around? And I wouldn't necessarily credit Kawhi Leonard for his passing.
Right. So with Kawhi sort of morphing into an isolation player, as we both know, when you get to the playoffs, you need guys like that. You need a guy who can go get a bucket against almost any matchup in certain situations. Is it possible that Kawhi will make them a better playoff team than he will a regular season team because of his ability, or whether he's doing it just because he wants to show that he can do it or whatever his motivation is, that ultimately that might be a little bit of a problem now, but that it will be valuable later?
I think you definitely need a guy who can go get his own shot. It does scare you if the ball doesn't move, because I don't know if Kawhi's like, even if Kevin Durant can't just ISO you, James Harden can't just ISO you in the playoffs and get it done. The ball has to pop and move. And Kawhi's not a playmaker. So the ball's going to have to go through Lowry or even, Pascal even.
Yeah, but
the way he's playing and moving that thing, that's the only thing. Like, they're good. They're scary as a team. And defensively, it's nuts. Like Rick, like when I say they're good, like, damn, like, bro, like they're good defensively.
And they're deep.
It's scary.
They can stay good. They can go 7 deep good, right? Where you don't lose anything when you go to the bench. But again, I'll say this.
Rick, this is maybe the best defensive team I've seen in a very long time, Rick.
Wow.
Because Golden State, like Iguodala's still all of about, 6'5", 6'6" on a good day. Livingston's still kind of skinny. Like, you got some built dudes, bro.
Yeah. No, you got long,
like with
athletic
shoulders.
But
and
here's
like,
the other part. You also have Kyle Lowry and the way that he's built versus Steph. Like Kyle, they're good with him switching on to bigs at times because he's a little fire plug that can hold his spot. And it just comes down to, physique, essentially. I'm not taking anything away. Steph at the height became a pretty damn good defender, or at least an acceptably good defender, better than people gave him credit for. But he's still working against the fact that he's 190, 6'3", and you can get moved around, bro. I mean, it happens.
Hey, Rick, can I bring up something? I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but we got to talk about. I got to see what you think. So. the Charlotte, I almost called them Bobcats. My former boss, Michael Jordan. So Kemba Walker dribbles down. He hits Lamb. Lamb hits a shot. You saw that, right? So Lamb hits the game winner, and everybody's celebrating. The rookie Malik Monk runs on the floor. He runs on the floor. They get a freaking technical. Rookie, what are you doing? All right? He's still coming, still going. And Monk is on the bench. Jordan is standing up. Jordan slaps him in the back of the head on national TV, bro. slaps him in the back of the head.
Oh.
Was that too far by Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Or is it almost like you did what we all wanted you to do? Like, come on, Rook.
But still, well, maybe only Michael Jordan can get away with that. Because you know he would do it if he was still playing. And that's the thing with Michael. He still operates. In fact, it might have been more. If he was still playing, somebody might have had a black eye. It might have been more than a slap on the back of the head.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And they shot free throws, bro. They shot free throws. The refs go back and watch the film.
That's worse than I thought I'd seen it when D'Angelo Russell, I guess it was against the Pelicans, I want to say it was. The Nets they just had to run out the clock. He tries to throw a no-look pass and throws it out of bounds.
Oh, I'm watching it, Rick.
You're watching it again?
I'm watching it, Rick. Can you see it? I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you.
Oh, you know what? That was light.
Oh, no. It wasn't big. It wasn't big. It was like what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
But still, Malik Monk's young, but he's a grown man. I don't know. Maybe he's 18. I'm not sure, but I don't know, Rick.
Hold on. Don't tell me calendar age when you do ish like that. That's your real age. That's your real age.
So acceptable by Michael Jordan.
You're 15 years old when you do something like that.
Acceptable by Michael Jordan. You're okay.
Actually, I thought it was a little too light for Michael Jordan. That was not. Yeah, I would have expected actually a little bit more. I would have expected he cuffed him. He didn't cuff him. He kind of grazed him on the back of the head. I think a full cuff from Michael Jordan in that situation would have been warranted. All right, two other things I want to get to. One, we haven't talked about this, and I don't know how much you make of it, but Joel Embiid is frustrated with his role since Jimmy Butler has come on the scene. Is this a big problem, a little problem, no problem?
I'm going to say it's a cause of concern, something you're going to look at. I'm not going to go wild over it because I feel like Joel will speak about it, and those two will hash it out. Like, those aren't two sensitive guys. If these are sensitive guys, I go, oh, woe is me, but that's kind of the language that they speak. That's like Katie and Draymond. Everybody went all wild, but like, that's Katie and Draymond's language. There's a language that we speak that everybody isn't going to understand. We're joking about Michael slapping in the back of the head, but that's the language that certain ball players speak. There's no sensitivity there. So him going, like, hey, Jimmy, you don't got to be Jimmy Buckets no more, bro. Like, move the basketball, because Embiid is a very cerebral player. Mm-hmm. When you watch him, he's got great footwork, great feel of the game. He knows how to move it out the basketball. He knows how to play with his teammates. So him making that known to Jimmy, I don't freak out about it.
I don't either. And you bring up a great point because of their personalities. And I think they can have that back and forth. Where I think it's a little bit of a problem is the fact that Jimmy's a pending free agent. And Jimmy's going to look hard at, okay, do I want to make room for Joel Embiid? Do I want to not be Jimmy Buckets whenever I choose to be Jimmy Buckets? And that I don't have an answer to. He may look at it. And look, bottom line is Philly wasn't on his original list. I would think that how well they do, what they do this season will go a long way to determining whether Jimmy takes a second look and says, you know what, Philly's a lot better than I thought, and there's a lot of young talent here, and I can go places, and so I'm willing to stay if they pay me. I don't know where he is on that, but that's where that to me is a question, because based on the list that Jimmy gave on places he wanted to go when he was still in Minnesota, he wanted to go someplace where he could be, without question, the man. Every single place that he listed didn't have somebody.
Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter how he feels about Jimmy Butler. Philly's going to do everything godly in their power, everything that they can to make sure that Jimmy Butler stays in a Philadelphia 76ers jersey, okay? They gave up Sarge. They gave up Covington. They're going to do everything in their power to keep him in their jersey. Now, maybe once you sign him, you trade him, you figure out from there, but they just gave up a lot to get him.
No, I get that. Philly, no doubt, will do everything they can to keep him. That still doesn't mean that Jimmy wants to stay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you got to assume there are conversations that were had to make them feel a little okay about it,
See, what I heard though is that there weren't, I'm sure they tried to explore. I heard there were no assurances given. That's what I heard. Now, usually in these situations, you're getting, like when CP goes to Houston, that was a done deal. Everybody got all hot and bothered about what he was going to get paid and when they were delay and all that. It was like, no. That deal's already done. The timing, if there's a delay, it has to do with something else, not that CP is having a change of heart or Houston hasn't decided or whatever it is. That was a foregone conclusion. This is one of these situations where I'm told it wasn't understood going in, if we make a deal for you, that he's going to sign up for the long term. And in the same way with Kawhi in Toronto. I mean, I think that's pretty clear that he hasn't given them any direct assurance that he's going to stay there long term.
I hear it, but I mean, I'm sure there's something going on there. I'm sure that there's it's not just that much of a gamble. But look, they're going to do everything in their power. I know that much.
For sure. All right, let's go to the last subject that I want to hit with you, and that is something that I addressed in yesterday's podcast, and that's the Chicago Bulls and Jim Boylen and a player committee now that goes to Boylen with any issues. And the reason that all that came up is because Boylen came in to replace Fred Hoiberg and really put his foot down. People were saying he put his fingerprints all over the team. I was like, no. He put his footprints all over the team because he's put his foot down, literally and figuratively, in terms of how he wanted him to practice, conditioning, and all that. So I just want to get your take. When you look at the makeup of this team and you look at Jim Boylen coming in, what was your first reaction to the way Jim approached the job?
So listen, when a guy like Hoiberg is fired, obviously it wasn't, you can't really say it's performance-based because they didn't have personnel. I hope they're not that naive. I don't think that Paxton's that naive over there in Chicago. But the big thing was you kind of want the opposite. There's something about, you have these two fighting between president, between GM, between, we don't want Tibbs. And then you get Fred, and he's soft and he's friendly, and they're not practicing, and everything is set all nicely, and they're like, heck no, we got to go back old school. We got to be tough. We need order. We need this, and this. And that's what they try to implement. And now the Bulls players are like, whoa, what the heck is this? We're tired. It was like, you suck. You need to practice anyways. Like the team doesn't care about winning, bro. All this rest. Remember last year, the Bulls have 4 or 5 starters out due to rest. Like, what? Rest for what? You know what I'm saying? Well,
I think that was angling for more lottery balls. That's what last year was.
I know. But I'm saying, rest. You're going for rest. You're going for a change when you bring in Boylen. So Boylen's kind of promise or pitch is that I'm the tough guy. I'm the opposite. I'm going to bring order. I'm going to teach these guys fundamentals. We'll get in there. And the thing, like a team like Chicago that drives you nuts is that, let's say, for instance, they're getting beat on the boards or they're not rotating. And I can tell you, I can show you film, but until we get practice time, he can't put his imprint on the team. And how crazy the schedule is, he's kind of like, we got to practice after a back-to-back. Like, we have to practice. Like, I have to get this stuff in.
So I agree with some of that. I suppose my issue is it was an all or nothing. Like, you're playing Boston, you come out flat. You're coming off of upsetting Oklahoma City. You're playing Boston, and you come out flat. And now you're subbing all of the starters out. And you not only do it once, you do it twice. And then you say after the game, I did that because they're going to get more out of practice tomorrow, and it wasn't a winnable game. And it ends up being a historically big loss, and all the players are wearing it as a result. It feels like you went too far in one direction for being the brand new head coach. I'm going to sub everybody out. And look, if you do a couple of those things, if you have long practices, if you're running wind sprints and saying we're not in condition, I get all that. When you start to publicly humiliate your team or embarrass them, and it's a young team, and they're not conditioned for that, I would expect some blowback. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, they're still looking at Boylen as you were the cool assistant coach.
Thank you.
And now you're the tough guy?
Yes, thank you.
He's got to put his foot down,
well,
you know?
Here's the thing. So were you ever in a situation where the assistant coach took over for the head coach and suddenly approached things, did a Jekyll and Hyde? And not to say, I mean, this is a difficult situation because Fred was really he was the good cop, and probably Jim as the assistant was the closest thing they had to a bad cop. Nonetheless, you know how when an assistant becomes the head coach, it doesn't matter what his relationships were prior to that. He's now the head coach. Everything changes a little bit, no?
Tyrone Corbin in Sacramento, when he took over for Mike Malone, he got a hard time. He got a really tough time, and it was so bad they didn't even let him finish the year out. I don't know what they had in mind. I know George Karl ends up coming in. I don't know why they didn't just kind of leap to George. I don't know what the heck was going on behind the scenes. But I tell you one thing, Tyrone Corbin had a tough deal.
Did he replace Mike Malone?
He replaced Mike Malone. I had 3 coaches in 1 year. But he had Rick, he had a tough go-around. It was wild. It was tough.
Was it tough because of his approach, or was it tough because of how the players received him becoming the head coach?
Just him being received. You know, you see somebody as an assistant. You don't see them as the guy making decisions. Then he goes to being the guy making decisions. And a lot of players didn't necessarily, I'll say certain players, didn't jump to give him that respect. But it's like, how do I see you in that role now? And I think he did as good of a job as he could have done, but it just wasn't accepted, you know? And it's tough because how do you not try to turn around everything that the guy, Mike Malone, was doing? Because if you go back in and you do the same darn thing, they say, well, we might as well fire you too. You're doing the same thing that the other guy was doing. You're running the same offense. You're getting the same results. So your promise is to be different. You know, you got to do it your way, and you got to be different. So that you get put in a tough scenario, man, taking over for somebody.
Well, that was a particularly tough situation because Mike Malone actually had you guys as a playoff team. I mean, you guys were overachieving under Mike, and he seemed to have a relationship with DeMarcus. It was a little baffling to everyone that they decided to gut Mike when they did.
Yeah, that was an odd deal, bro. Vivek wanted to play faster. Mike played at his tempo, and Mike also figured I'm going to do what's best I can with DeMarcus Cousins. You got DeMarcus Cousins, and you want me to play fast. That's not necessarily working out. So they had differences of opinions there, and they end up letting Mike go, and it works out well because Mike is doing really darn good right now at the Nuggets, you know?
All right, so what do you think is the prospects that Jim Boylen is able to survive this, knowing the investment they have in Zach LaVine, the young talent that they have? Can he find a way back?
I don't think he does, in the sense that unless you decide to blow up the roster even more, but you just sign LaVine, and I don't see him going to be this defensive anchor for you. And then Jabari Parker, you know, you just sign him, and I would assume, I don't know the details, he may be a part of the revolt, you know, like so.
Well, I would expect that he's a short timer.
Yeah, you put Boylen in a bad spot, man. I don't know how Boylen gets out of that. The first to go is Boylen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's the first.
So, but I guess this is the thing. How much do you put the fact that this may not work on the players or Boylen's approach?
Boylen is screwed either way, bro. Boylen stepped into the deal screwed, bro. Like there was no way out.
There was no way for it to work.
Man, this ain't Luke Walton, you know, taking over with the sick Steve Kerr. You know what I'm saying? Like he was screwed, bro.
That was the point that I made in yesterday's podcast, though, was the fact that when Luke took over, now Luke knew that he was going to go back at some point and be the assistant coach again. But he also understood that he had to be the same guy, that he couldn't suddenly be a different guy as the head coach, because the players would look at him and go, oh, so now you're a badass. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And he did it because it allowed him the pathway to go back to being the assistant coach and still being the same guy. But I dare say, and look, and they had slippage during that time. Like, I talked to Ron Adams, and he said, yeah, we're winning. And this was, they won 16 in a row to start the season. And he goes, we're winning, but this isn't something that's going to sustain us. And then again, they went 73-9, caught up to them ultimately in the playoffs. But Ron didn't like the way they were playing, but also knew that Luke really couldn't hold them accountable the same way that Steve did. And I understand that they wanted to dial things up as far as the way Fred was doing things. I don't think you can come in and be that dramatic when you also, like, you have no other track record. You've never been a head coach before in the NBA. There's nothing that tells the players, if you do this, this ultimately is going to get us where we want to go.
And if you try to be everybody's buddy, and these dudes don't know how to play basketball, that ain't going to work out either.
Yeah. So maybe to your point.
It's bigger than Boylen, man. He's got to have the support of the front office. But they say, yo, we're not firing him. We're not moving him. You give this guy a chance, because if they're going, don't worry, this guy's not going to be here long. They're already tuning him out. And you got to think agents talk and players talk to the GM, to the front office personnel. You know, like, if they don't have his confidence, that changes things. I remember in Sacramento, when George got there, Vivek really backed George, and Boogie shut the heck up and did what he said. Now, once Vivek comes out and makes the statement, I won't be moving DeMarcus Cousins or trade. He said something like that. Boogie was like, hey, bro, you ain't going to be talking to me crazy no more, George. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ultimately, they both end up, moving on. But, if you don't have that backing from the front, like, there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
Or you're almost like on your own. Like, I remember Byron Scott was just like, yo, like, you going to freaking respect me, because if they fire me or they don't like what I'm doing, they just don't like what I'm doing. But I ain't kissing your butt because the GM is in love with who you are. I'm going to do what I feel is right and is best for the team,
Well, and from what I understand, I mean, look, but just from the outside looking in, the Bulls didn't make him an interim guy. They said, hey, he's our coach going forward. It seems to me, and from everything that John Paxson and Gar Forman have said to this point, they've given him as much support as they can, and Zach LaVine's new deal still trumps it, because Zach had no problem going, not sure if we want to practice on Sunday after the back-to-back. I don't care how much we lost by. And I said it on the podcast, there are ways to do it. I think the biggest mistake Jim might have made is that he said on Saturday night, well, the reason I sat all the starters is because we're going to practice tomorrow and they're going to get more out of practice than they would in an unwinnable game. And then the next day he says, well, I wasn't planning on practicing that hard anyway. They have to trust me on this. It was like, it sounds like you were just trying to save face when you didn't.
You're saying too much. Yeah, you ain't got to say everything to the media. You're doing too much, man. Bro, just do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, we've covered everything. That's it for this episode of Bucher and Hollins. Tomorrow is Friday, which means we are going to give you all of our picks on behalf of SportsBetCollective.com against the spread and the over-under for every Friday night game. And my man Ryan Hollins is, I don't have your record in front of me, but it is better than mine. Last week, I let you talk me out of a...
No, don't you do that.
No. I let you... No, it's my fault. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming me. I let you talk me out of, I think it was the Orlando, Indiana game. And I flipped it, and that was one that I lost on. And as a result, I know I went 9-11 last week, and I know you were comfortably over. If I went 11-9, you probably went 12-8, but you were comfortably over 500 and only pushes your overall record even higher. So I'm just telling you, tomorrow I'm standing my ground and I'll let the chips fall where they may. By the way, I got you on the Raptors Warriors. All right, that's enough for Bucher and Hollins. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.